In the distant future, humanity had perfected the art of cryo-sleep, a method of preserving people for generations, until the world was ready for them. The hope was that those who entered would awaken to a better, more advanced world. But they never anticipated one small, terrifying detail: not all sleepers were alike. In a dark, sterile lab buried beneath the surface of New York City, a team of scientists prepared for one of the most ambitious tasks in history: awakening a cryo-sleep subject. Subject number 17, a man whose records were mostly blank except for a cryptic note that read, "He is not just a sleeper, he is the key." The countdown began. The chamber hummed to life, releasing frost from its cold core. The scientists watched in anticipation, their eyes flicking between monitors and the cryo chamber. The man inside, known only as Elias, stirred. First, a twitch of his fingers. Then his eyes blinked open, glowing faintly in the dim light of the lab. "Welcome back," Dr. Harris said, a nervous smile creeping across his face. "You've been asleep for over 200 years." Elias didn't speak. He simply sat up. There was something unsettling about the way he moved. Too fluid, too precise, as if every muscle in his body had been honed for a purpose far beyond human comprehension. "How do you feel?" Dr. Harris asked, trying to sound reassuring. Elias stood up slowly, towering over the team. His eyes swept across the lab, taking in the sterile surroundings. His gaze settled on a nearby window, and in one swift motion, he shattered it with his bare hands. The room went silent. The scientists stared, mouths agape. Elias didn't seem to notice the chaos. His focus was sharp, scanning his surroundings like an apex predator evaluating the environment for threats. "Is this really necessary?" Dr. Harris asked, his voice trembling. Elias finally turned to face them, his expression unreadable. He spoke, but his voice was colder than the cryo-sleep chamber. "You should have left me frozen. Now you've woken a weapon you don't understand." His body rippled with unnatural strength as he moved towards the control panel. The lights flickered. The air itself seemed to bend around him. With a single thought, the power in the lab went out, plunging them into darkness. "We were meant to help you," Dr. Harris stammered, but Elias was already on the move, faster than the human eye could track. The building groaned as Elias' power rattled its core. With terrifying calm, he shattered every monitor in the lab, his gaze never leaving the team. "You didn't wake me. You woke a god," Elias whispered, almost to himself. As he stepped out of the shattered room and into the vast city beyond, the ground trembled beneath his feet. The future humanity had hoped for no longer seemed like a dream, it had become their nightmare. But no one, not even Elias himself, could have known just how far his power would reach. The very moment he stepped into the unknown, it was clear: this world, this fragile society, wasn't prepared for someone like him. And it was too late to stop what was coming. ChatGPT said. The city was in chaos. Elias's footsteps echoed through the empty streets, the ground beneath him trembling with every stride. People had started to notice. The quiet hum of life had turned into frantic whispers. News reports flickered on screens, talking of an unprecedented anomaly in New York, though they had no clue what they were truly witnessing. Elias didn't care for their confusion. He moved through the city as if it were a maze, his eyes glowing with a chilling intensity. His mind was a puzzle of ancient memories and futuristic knowledge, his existence no longer tethered to the past. He was something else, something more. A human, yes, but one who had been enhanced by forces far beyond human understanding. Back at the lab, Dr. Harris and his team had barely begun to process what had happened. Their initial shock was wearing off, but only to make room for fear. Elias wasn't just powerful. He was dangerous. But they didn't understand why. Why had they been chosen to awaken him? What was his purpose? Dr. Harris paced back and forth, his mind racing through the possibilities. "We need to track him down," he muttered, his voice shaky. "Find out what we're dealing with before it's too late." But there was no simple way to track Elias. The team had underestimated his power, and now Elias was on the move again. Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, Elias had reached a park, the very same one he had visited as a child. The old memories flooded back to him as he sat on a bench, gazing up at the sky. The world had changed, but he had not. In fact, he felt more alive than ever, more present than he had ever been. He had come to a realization. This wasn't the world he had known. The city, the technology, even the people, it was all different. Yet one thing remained the same, the power he held over it. He closed his eyes, and for the first time since awakening, a strange peace settled over him. He wasn't alone in this world, but he was something else entirely. He was both a weapon and a savior. What he chose to be depended on how they, the world he was thrust into, reacted to him. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden crackle in the air. From the corner of his eye, Elias saw something shimmer. The same device that had been used to bring him back to life, the Cryo-Sleep chamber's failsafe, had activated once more. It was a signal. A warning. The voice from the device was faint but clear. Elias, you are a part of something much larger. They will come for you. The words didn't faze him. Elias had always been different, and now it was clear that they, whoever they were, had been waiting for this moment. The very fact that he had been chosen for Cryo-Sleep was no coincidence. Let them come, he murmured to himself. I'll be waiting. But what Elias didn't realize was that this was just the beginning. The world he'd been thrust into wasn't the world of tomorrow. It was the last echo of humanity's greatest mistake. The government, the factions, the corporations, all had their eyes on Elias now. What they didn't know was that Elias wasn't just any sleeper. He was the answer to their long-forgotten questions. He was the key to the power that had been buried deep within their technological experiments. And he had only just begun to unlock the secrets buried inside him. Back at the lab, Dr. Harris and his team knew their time was running out. They were the last line of defense, the only ones who could attempt to bring Elias back before he descended into chaos. But every plan they formed seemed futile. How do you fight something that cannot be contained? How do you stop a force of nature? Elias had already set his sights on something bigger, the future of humanity itself. He would either save it, or tear it apart. The game had changed. The rules no longer applied. Elias was awake, and he wasn't going back to sleep. The night deepened over New York, and the air crackled with a tension that had never been felt before. Elias had become a living legend in a matter of hours. His every move broadcasted across the world's networks, debated and feared in equal measure. Some called him a savior, others a destroyer. But no one understood what he truly was, what he was capable of. At the heart of the crisis, the global powers began to scramble. The United Nations convened an emergency summit. Military forces were on high alert. Special task forces were dispatched, equipped with the latest technology and weapons to subdue what they saw as an escalating threat. But none of it would be enough. Elias stood atop a building, his silhouette cutting through the night sky. His senses were heightened, every sound amplified, every movement crisp and clear. His body, an intricate blend of human and something far greater, thrummed with power. Yet his mind was calm, focused. How long will they chase me? Elias muttered to himself. His voice wasn't filled with rage, but with the cold realization that the world was not prepared for what had awoken from cryo-sleep. His eyes flicked to the horizon. The world had changed in 200 years. Technology had advanced beyond recognition. Cities were alive with the hum of AI systems, self-driving cars, and towering megastructures. Yet, despite all this progress, humanity had overlooked one fundamental thing: the human will could still evolve. And Elias had been a part of that evolution, without their knowledge. The government had already begun to deploy their first wave of tactical drones. High-tech and fast, they were equipped with the latest in kinetic and laser weaponry, designed to subdue any potential threat. But as they closed in on Elias's position, he wasn't frightened. If anything, the sight of the drones was almost laughable. With a slight twitch of his finger, the first wave of drones were ripped apart mid-flight, their components disintegrating into harmless particles. Elias didn't even break a sweat. His power was like a silent storm, growing stronger with each passing second. Yet something lingered in the back of his mind. A deeper, unspoken urge. The sensation of a presence, something watching, something that knew him. Something from his past. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris and his team were in a race against time. They were the last ones who knew how to reach Elias, and they were certain that if they didn't act soon, the situation would spiral beyond control. The cries for help from the world's leaders echoed through the walls of their lab, but Dr. Harris's focus was elsewhere. "We're running out of time," Dr. Harris said, pacing in front of the holographic displays. "We need a way to communicate with him. He's still human, in some way. We can't just treat him as a weapon." "I'm not sure if that matters anymore," one of the scientists responded, staring at the broken footage of Elias from the field. "He's not reacting to anything the military is throwing at him. What if he's beyond us?" Dr. Harris stopped dead in his tracks. His mind had flashed to something, a theory he had dismissed long ago. What if Elias wasn't just a sleeper? What if he was the result of something far more deliberate? A force designed to change humanity itself. The theory came to him in fragments, project names, encrypted files, and cryptic messages in the archives he had once ignored. One name stood out among the rest: Project Helios. "I need to see the archives," Dr. Harris said urgently. "Now." Elias, meanwhile, had made his way deeper into the city, seemingly unaffected by the chaos he had caused. Every step he took echoed through the streets. No one dared approach him. They watched from behind locked doors and windows, too afraid to even breathe in his direction. But amidst the chaos, a lone figure emerged from the shadows, a woman. She moved with purpose, her steps purposeful, yet her gaze steady. Her name was Mara, and she was no stranger to Elias. She had been the one who had helped awaken him from cryo-sleep, unknowingly placing herself in the center of a storm. "Mara!" Elias's voice broke through the silence, sharp and clear, as she approached him. Her heart skipped a beat. She had been watching from afar, but this was the first time she was standing so close to him. The man, the creature, she had helped bring back to life. "Mara," Elias repeated, his eyes locking with hers. "Did you think this would end well?" I didn't know. I thought I was helping you," Mara said, her voice faltering as she faced the power of the man she had once known as a simple subject. Elias looked down at her. "You didn't know me. You didn't know what I was. You and the others are not prepared for what's coming. Neither is the world." Mara's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Elias's gaze softened, almost wistful. "I was never meant to be awakened. But now that I have been, I will reshape this world, Mara, the way it should have been all along." With that, he turned away, the ground trembling beneath his feet as he walked away from her. His mind was set. He would no longer be a tool for others. He would no longer be a weapon or a slave to the experiments that had created him. He was something far beyond their control. And the world, now that he was awake, would never be the same again. The world was teetering on the brink. As Elias moved through the city, the very earth seemed to bend to his will. The world governments had launched all available forces against him, desperate to bring him down, but every attempt had failed. Drones, tanks, and even the latest energy weapons had been rendered useless. Nothing could touch him. As he walked through the streets, a chilling calm settled over him. He was no longer just a man. He was the embodiment of a future humanity could never have prepared for. They had created him, woken him, but now they had no control. Meanwhile, back in the lab, Dr. Harris was piecing together the puzzle. The fragments from the archives were more than he had hoped for, but the implications were staggering. Project Helios was not just an experiment. It was humanity's last-ditch effort to survive an unknown disaster. They had created Elias not to preserve humanity, but to ensure it had a future, by whatever means necessary. "Helios," Dr. Harris whispered, as if the name alone carried a weight far greater than anything they had encountered. He wasn't supposed to wake up. He was the final safeguard, the fail-safe when everything went wrong. Dr. Harris paced around the lab, his mind racing. Elias wasn't just a sleeper. He was a weapon built for the unknown. A man designed to survive anything. But there was more. Something darker that they had failed to account for. Elias wasn't just about survival. He was about evolution. He had been created not to save humanity, but to change it. "We have to find him. We have to stop him before he becomes something worse," Dr. Harris said, his voice cracking. He wasn't sure if stopping Elias was even possible anymore. But they couldn't let him reshape the world without understanding the true cost. As Elias moved forward, he could feel the weight of humanity's gaze on him. The city felt smaller than ever, a fragile thing. Every step he took carried the force of someone who had seen beyond the edges of time, someone who knew that the world was not ready for what it was about to face. He could hear the sirens in the distance, distant, irrelevant. Soldiers gathered in front of barricades, the technology of warfare now nothing more than a futile effort against him. Elias knew he had a choice. He could destroy them all or reshape their world, force them to see what they had failed to recognize. His eyes shifted to the skyline, and for a moment, something shifted in him, a sense of purpose. He was not just an anomaly. He was the beginning of something new. Mara, still watching from the shadows, had followed Elias for hours. She couldn't let him go. He was more than she could comprehend now, but she had a responsibility to stop him. She had awakened him, and though her motives had been pure, she now knew that she had set in motion something unstoppable. She had been the bridge between the past and Elias's new future. She knew he wasn't the same man who had first woken from cryo-sleep. The power inside him was growing, changing. He wasn't just responding to the world, he was remaking it. Elias's voice broke through her thoughts. "You still don't understand, do you?" Mara froze. She had thought she was hidden, but Elias's senses were beyond anything she could have imagined. He turned slowly to face her, his expression unreadable. "You see, Mara," Elias began, "I am the end of what you know, and the beginning of what will come next. The world you're fighting to preserve. It was already broken long ago. You just never saw it." She swallowed, heart racing. "You don't have to do this, Elias. There's still a chance to fix this. Come back. Please." He studied her for a long moment. His gaze softened for a brief second, and then it hardened. "You don't get it. You're too small for what I am now. What I was made to be." Mara's hands trembled. She stepped forward, trying to reach him. "I know you. The real you is still in there. I believe that." For a split second, Elias hesitated. His eyes flickered, an almost imperceptible shift. But then, with the force of a decision centuries in the making, he turned his back on her. "Believe what you want, Mara. But the world I was born into is gone. The one I will create, it's already beginning." Before she could say another word, Elias raised his hand. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and with a single thought, the world around them began to reshape. Buildings shifted, roads crumbled, and the very fabric of the city seemed to warp. It wasn't destruction. It was transformation. Elias was remaking everything in his image. At that moment, Dr. Harris and his team were in a race against time. The government had sent an elite task force to subdue Elias, but their technology was hopelessly outdated. They were already reporting heavy casualties as the power of Elias's abilities grew. "We can't stop him with conventional methods. We have to try something else," Dr. Harris said, staring at the monitors. One of the scientists looked up from the screen, his face pale. "Dr. Harris, I found something in the archives. A countermeasure. A way to reverse the effects of Project Helios." Dr. Harris leaned in. "What are you talking about?" "We can't destroy him," the scientist said, voice shaky. "But there's a failsafe, a way to neutralize the effects, to suppress the abilities he's developed. It's in the design, but it's dangerous." "Explain." "We don't have time," Dr. Harris urged, his mind already planning their next move. "We have to go to the control center beneath the city. It's the heart of Project Helios. If we inject the reverse algorithm into the system, it could disrupt his connection to the energy source. It might bring him down." Dr. Harris's heart pounded. This could be the only chance they had to stop Elias before he completely altered the world. But as they prepared to make their way down to the control center, they all knew something. The world they were fighting to protect was no longer the same. And Elias was no longer just a man. He was something else entirely. Elias stood at the edge of the city, watching as the skyline flickered under his influence. The world that had once rejected him, that had placed him in cold storage for centuries, was now his to shape. The streets were silent, save for the distant hum of a world teetering on the brink of a new era. Behind him, Mara watched, her heart heavy with the knowledge that the man she had known was gone. In his place stood a being of unimaginable power, a force of nature that no longer saw humanity as his equal. Elias turned to her one last time, his eyes soft but resolute. You wanted me to come back to life, Mara. But this is what I was meant to be. I can't go back. The city, his canvas, began to pulse with life under his touch, reshaping itself into something unrecognizable. Dr. Harris and his team raced toward the control center, but they knew in their hearts it was too late. Elias was no longer a weapon. He was a god, and the world had just been remade. The future was his now, and no one could stop it. The world had changed, and there was no going back.